Hello everybody and welcome to this rendering tutorial in which I'm going to show you the process how we can take a USDZ export of a design we created in Shaper 3D, like this chair, export it via export and USDZ, and then take that textured model and load it into Blender. Reconfigure everything. We will add a camera, we will add an HDRI background so we can use the rendering we created in Shaper as a reference, but then use all the tools we have in Blender to add more realism or creativity to the rendering. In this exercise, we're also going to use the Eevee real-time render engine, and at the end, when everything is set up, we will create the final rendering in just a matter of, in my case, 2 seconds. That's pretty fast and cool, no? Okay, and with all that said, let's do it. So we're in Blender. This is my default environment. You might have other objects. Press A and X to delete everything. We want to have the Eevee render environment turned on, ray tracing is on, and resolution for ray tracing and resolution for FastGI is both or are both set to 1:1. Sweet. Time to import the object. Go to File, Import. There it is. USDZ. Navigate to where you have downloaded the object. Click Import. Boom. There is an empty. You see the empty is the parent. When we move this around, the object actually moves with it. Press X to delete it. We don't want it. And then with left mouse button and shift, we can select these fragments, which are a side effect or byproduct of the USDZ exporter. Go to Object and Join, and we put them all into one container. Thank you. Double click on the name, type in chair, click on X, go to the front view, press G and Z, move this one up, press G and Z, put the chair onto the Y line. Now it's nicely on the ground, but we don't have a ground. Easy peasy, go to Add Mesh Plane. That's a tiny plane. Go to Edit Mode, press S to scale this one up, and yes, type in 100. It needs to be a big plane. You will see soon why. Then let's go back to object mode. There it is. This might be a moment when we can import the Shaper 3D reference rendering. So we can go to the editor type, click on it, go to image editor, click open, desktop, and here is the chair reference from Shaper. Open image. We have here some buttons to move this around, or scroll wheel and middle mouse button for zoom in and out and pan around. And now that type of a drop shadow in an environment, I would like to rebuild. Cool. Okay, so how can we do this? One thing I do, for example, first is add actually a camera. So I go into camera front view. Then I will go add a camera. The reason why I do this is the camera then is positioned this way, how it was added. I can then go to move command, move the camera back, move the camera over, move this to there. But I want the camera to always look at this chair. I can actually constrain the camera to the chair. So with the camera selected, go to constraints, add constraint, track 2, click on the eyedropper, click the chair, and then you see now the camera always follows it. It is, however, a little bit complicated now to see how things look through the camera, and I could go into the camera view and go back out. So what will be easier to do is the following. I move this one to here. And then with the mouse on the spotter, I press right mouse button, horizontal split, very good. And then I will go to here, right click and vertical split. And here is now my camera. So very nice. You see I have two viewports. I can go to global and switch this to local. You will see now that this X, Y, and Z widget changed. With local, it follows the orientation of the kind of like the camera, and move this a little bit further out. Beautiful. So we don't maybe that's a question, where do we need more of the space? Here I make this bigger. Since I'm rendering here, I can zoom out. I use this viewport only to move my camera around. And let's turn on the rendering mode. Click on it and doesn't really look as nice as here. That is because our world has just simply a gray color. I can make this one brighter. Yeah, hey, there's light, but it looks totally washed out. And there isn't really a drop shadow. So let me show you now how you can get this via a so-called HDRI environment image. We move this a little bit higher up, and then we go to shader editor. We switch from object to world. We can press N to move this palette away. This, by the way, is exactly the same thing. You will see here the numbers update the same. This is a list view, this is a flowchart view. So inside this background, instead of having a white color, I would like to have an environment. So let's go to Add, Texture, Environment Texture, and plop this one in there. This is magenta, and I can click Open, go to Desktop, and here I have this environment texture. I can click Open, and bonk, there it is. Beautiful. Before I continue, let me show you actually where you can get these HDRI environment images from. Let's go to a web browser, and there we are. Type in Polyhaven, and this is a really beautiful website. Big thanks for the people who are doing it. On this website, you can get free 3D models, textures, and HDRIs. We have different categories. I go to Studio, and here is the Brown Photo Studio 2. Click it. Then you can go to 1K, that is totally fine, and click download, and then put it to where you want it to be saved. Okay, and that's it. This is how you can find these HDRI images. Let's go back to Blender. So we do want to rotate this HDRI image. So I'm with middle mouse button, move this over. And now I have the environment that shows a texture, but I need that texture to rotate. So I need a rotation command. So I can go to Add, Vector. Think about vector as now, like a direction. Mapping, there we are. I zoom out a little bit, and then we have this mapping vector going into vector, and something didn't really work out. It's all good because we have location, rotation, and scale, but we don't tell how these manipulations should be applied. So what coordinate system? We'll go to Add, Input, and Texture Coordinate. For the worlds, we use Generated, and there we are. So now basically we tell the software, use the world coordinate system to rotate this image and then display it in the background. So that's kind of cool, huh? And also here we can adjust the strength, for example, of how strong that image should be used. We can then go to this other viewport, move our camera around, play with it. We can go GZ and Z, move the camera up and down. GZ only moves the camera towards the object and back. So you see, like, this is a really nice tool to kind of like prototype our look. If I zoom out, I want to make sure that however I'm looking at the object, my ground plane is always bigger than actually my camera frame. I can also turn this floor off, or maybe this X and Y. So very nice. Or I turn this whole thing off. So this is kind of like an overlay. And there are a few more elements I can do. If I go to the camera is selected. I can make this a more tele, or for example, fisheye lens. If I now get this closer, now you can see this is really like a fisheye lens. And if I go to 120 just as an exercise, because this is a tele lens, this nearly looks like an orthographic view. A good value here is, for example, something between 50 to 60. There, sweet. The backdrop, the drop shadow is a little bit outside. I can actually shift the picture plane. Look at this. So I can even look at this from a different position and then here move the picture plane up and down. So it's actually a really, really nice ability you have in this program to kind of like do what every photographer is dreaming about. So there we are. This is actually really nice. The only thing left to do is click render. So we can take what we see here and create a real finished rendering with the resolution of what we have defined here. This is also, because we're using Eevee, going to be done literally in 2 seconds and a quarter second. To save this image now, we can go to Image, Save As. You can select a format, PNG or JPEG. I would go to PNG. Go to where you would like this to render. Give this a name. And hit Save. And that's it. Perfect.